An amateur scout has one of the craziest jobs in the NHL, as they have to try to project what an 18-year-old kid will look like in 5 to 10 years, which can be an extremely difficult, if not near impossible task. And if they're not successful in finding these players, well, their jobs are in jeopardy. And with that being said, if a prospect displays any red flags in their draft year, it can lead to them falling heavily in their draft. Because whether they had an inconsistent season, a bad World Juniors, a not so great draft interview, or perhaps they didn't take their health serious enough, many variables can seriously hurt a prospect's draft stock. Especially when there's literally hundreds of draft eligible players, all of which are competing against each other. So in today's video, we're going to go over players who fell in their draft class, and we're going to try to get a better understanding on why they fell, and perhaps whether or not they proved the teams that passed on them wrong. So comment down below if your team has ever jumped on a player who fell in their draft, and press subscribe for some more awesome content. Let's get straight into this video. And I forgot to mention that this is part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1, check it out after this video. Link will be down below. We'll start in 2014 with Joshua Ho-Sang. And this narrative has a lot of attitude, because Ho-Sang his entire hockey career has been an amazing talent. In 2012, Ho-Sang would even outscore Connor McDavid in minor midget. I mean, McDavid was an underager, but this was still very impressive regardless. And Ho-Sang would step into Windsor and be an immediate impact player. 44 points in 63 games, and with his big time skill, Josh was expected to be a top 10 talent in the 2014 NHL draft. So heading into his draft year, there was a lot of hype and expectations. However, this is where we'd see the story unfold. To start, off-ice rumors would begin to rumble about Ho-Sang having poor attitude. On top of Ho-Sang not even getting invited to the U18s, which was a massive red flag. Now, Ho-Sang did say he was being mistreated, which I'm not going to deny, but Ho-Sang would continue to be left off every tournament list, even after being drafted and being a top talent in the entire CHL. And this had to do with apparent attitude issues. Because even though he put up a very respectable 82 points and had some of the best offensive talent in the entire draft, Ho-Sang would fall all the way back to pick number 28. As he was on many teams' do not draft list. And Ho-Sang, ever since being drafted, has been battling with the same controversy. As he put up a respectable 22 points in his first 43 games, but due to a lack of efforts in the defensive zone and poor attitude, Ho-Sang has never been given a chance. And has been kind of buried in the minors, so much so that Ho-Sang has submitted multiple trade requests and has actually sat out parts of the season because of his frustration. But what do you guys think? Has Ho-Sang been poorly mismanaged? Or has his attitude issues hurt himself? Next, in 2010, we have Cam Fowler. And unlike Ho-Sang, Fowler was a massive draft day surprise. Because heading into the 2010 NHL draft, Cam Fowler was a legitimate top 3 pick, as he was seen as an elite skating defenseman who was a potential number 1 powerplay quarterback. And on top of being highly touted heading into his draft year, and the fact that Cam lived up to all his expectations made this drop even more confusing, as Fowler registered a very impressive 55 points in 55 games, and was very impressive at the World Juniors as an underager. And so on draft day, Cam Fowler would fall from a top 3 pick to number 12 for some fairly questionable reasons. For one, he was playing on Windsor, who had a great overall team, so many felt that his offense may have been a bit inflated. But at the same time, Fowler has proved in his past that he does not rely on a strong team. And the other explanation was that many teams were drafting for position, because looking back at this draft, many teams were prioritizing offense. And the teams that did draft a defenseman were the Rangers and Panthers, who both valued grit more than skill. Because Cam Fowler would quite literally, instantly prove everyone wrong, as he made the opening night roster the next season, and he put up 40 points in 77 games. And today, Fowler is the same player. Now I will say, he didn't quite hit the potential many thought he would. In fact, his rookie season was his best offensive season, but Fowler is hands down the best defenseman taken from the first round. And so falling from a top 3 pick to number 12 was definitely not warranted. Next, we have Timothy Liljegren. And Liljegren had a massive fall in his draft year. Because heading into the 2017 NHL draft, some scouts had Liljegren as the first overall pick, as many scouts projected him to be a potential franchise defenseman, as Liljegren displayed all the traits of an electrifying top-pairing defender as he impressed scouts by playing in the SHL as a 16-year-old and was a big-time player for Sweden during the U18s. However, in Liljegren's draft year, he would get mono, meaning he would miss a significant amount of the season, including the World Juniors. And so when Liljegren finally returned to the lineup, he would be rusty, as he was taken out of commission for months during his draft year, which really hurt his development. Because when he finally returned, Liljegren would be just okay. He wasn't playing bad by any means, but he didn't show any great progression. And so Liljegren would go from a potential top 2 pick to falling all the way to number 17, where the Leafs picked up the potential steal of the draft. And today, Liljegren has been showing massive progression. He had a lot of ups and downs in the minors, which caused many people to have mixed impressions on Liljegren. But this season specifically, we've been seeing some great progression. 30 points in 40 AHL games in his first stint in the NHL. But what do you guys think? Being sick, having mono, did Liljegren deserve to slide so far in the draft? Or does Toronto have a potential top 2 defender in the works? Next, we have Shaun. And if you've been paying attention to the hockey news in the past week, you probably saw that the New York Rangers have officially cut ties with Day. And when you consider that Shaun was an exceptional status player with other names such as Connor McDavid and John Tavares, well, he has a pretty crazy story. Because throughout Day's entire hockey career, he had some serious expectations, as Shaun was a legitimate step ahead of everyone in terms of skating and physical play. And so Day was getting some serious comparisons to Drew Doughty and was expected to be the next great talent in the NHL. And combined with the fact that he was debating on going to the NCAA, the CHL would grant Day exceptional status. And so Day would break in on a rebuilding Steelheads team, and he would struggle. He was physical enough, but his offensive tools weren't there, and he was being heavily criticized for his hockey IQ. And so the next year, Shaun would finally have his breakout season, as his offense would get much better with 32 points in 58 games, and some thought Day was finally on the right trajectory of being that great NHL defenseman. However, in his draft year, everything would go south fast. To start, Shaun would show up to the Ivan Hillinger tournament super out of shape. And because of not taking his offseason seriously, he'd be cut from the team. So I mean, that's a pretty terrible start. And on top of this, his offense would fall, and his overall game would just regress. And considering that Day was a former exceptional status player who should be displaying positive development, many scouts had massive red flags surrounding Day. And so Shaun would go from a projected first overall pick to a top 10 pick to a late first round pick to an actual third round pick. And today, the New York Rangers have officially cut ties with Shaun. And so after being sent down to the ECHL and displaying some very concerning traits on not taking himself serious enough, it makes sense. And honestly, it's definitely a shame, because Shaun has mentioned that he's always felt the pressure of being that exceptional status player. And that's also why the CHL has been taking extra precautions when declaring a player exceptional, because there's much more to play than just on-ice play. And lastly, we will end with Alex Debrincat. And I think we all know that this one has strung a tie to his size, but regardless, it is still mind-blowing. Because Debrincat a year before his actual draft season would put up 51 goals and 104 points. Insane production, and if Debrincat was just 3 inches taller, he would be considered a generational talent. And so heading into his actual draft season, Debrincat would follow up with another incredible season, as he put up 51 goals and 101 points. So back-to-back 50-goal seasons before his draft year. And so Debrincat would fall out of the first round right into Chicago's hands at number 39. And today, Debrincat is an elite goal-scoring winger. Now, he has struggled this season as the Hawks in general are struggling as a whole, but last season he put up a very impressive 41 goals. And so as the Hawks get through this rebuild, Alex is definitely someone I could see surpassing that 50-goal mark. Now, this one's definitely a bit more obvious because of his size, but I'm very glad that people like Debrincat, Johnny Gaudreau, Quinn Hughes, and now Cole Caulfield are proving that size isn't everything. But anyways guys, has your team ever drafted someone who fell in their draft? Comment down below, let me know, I'd love to hear. Also, I started losing my voice a bit in this video, so sorry about that, sorry if you noticed something weird. But anyways guys, thank you guys so much for the awesome support. We are on the road for 20,000 subscribers and we're gonna crush it. I know we can. But anyways guys, hope you all are doing well. See you guys later. Next, we have a caseless iPhone. Well, good thing Red Zone Cases just released their Star Series 2.0. Bester, Petey, Horvat on one case? Are you kidding me? Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid. Get one of these beautiful cases today and use code RTH at checkout to receive 20% off your order. The link is in the description below.